Hey guys, I know that when we left on Friday, there were still a few people that were struggling with this percentage increase, percentage decrease, and percentage change problems, um, figuring out which formula to use. So I thought I would make one more video to go through with you guys. So that way we're all on the same page and we'll actually take a quiz on this on Tuesday. So there's essentially three different problems that we're looking to try to solve. And depending on what the problem is asking, it's going to tell us what formula to use. If we're looking for a percentage, then we're looking at the big minus small divided by the original. If we're looking for either the original number or the new number, then we want to use those percent increase or percent decrease formulas, which is A times 1 plus or minus R equals B. And so let's read through a couple questions here. So let's determine, okay, what formula am I using? And then how am I going to go about solving using that formula? So this first one says the number 35 is decreased to 33. What is the percentage by which the number was decreased to the nearest tenth of a percent? Now, looking through the Delta Math assignments, it seems like a lot of you are doing, if you're getting them wrong, a lot of you are doing them correctly, but then you're missing this last part where you have to actually round it to the correct percentage. So after you go through and get the final answer, that's when you round. And in this case, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So we got to keep that in mind at the end of this problem. So first thing I'm looking at, okay, what am I actually finding? And right here it says, what is the percentage? Anytime it says, what is the percentage or what is the percent change, that's when I know I'm going to see if I can write in blue here. I'm going to use that big minus small divided by the original, because that's going to give out that percent change, that R value that we've been talking about, or that rate. So now all I have to do is plug in my numbers to find R. My big number is 35. My small number is 33, divided by the original number, which was 35. And then I gotta plug it into my calculator. So 35 minus 33 is 2. 2 divided by 35 gives me 0.05714. And then remember, once we change that to a percent, we have to move it 1, 2 to the right. So we're left with 5.714. But then we have to round it to the nearest tenth. The 7 is in the 10th digit. The 1 tells the 7 to stay the same, so this becomes 5.7%. And then it's always good to go back and check to see, okay, is this a percent increase or a percent decrease? Since it already says it's a decrease here, we can write decrease down here. But I believe on the Delta Math, it's not going to ask whether it's an increase or decrease. It's just going to ask what the percent change is. So in this problem, it asks for the percentage. So that means we have to use the big minus small divided by the original to find that rate. Okay, question number 2 here. It says, if you bought a stock last year for $90 and it went down 13% since then, how much is the stock worth now to the nearest cent? All right, so first thing we got to figure out, what are we solving for? So it's asking how much is the stock worth now? So we're looking for the new price. And then the other thing that we have to keep in mind is it's to the nearest cent. So once we finish the problem, we have to remember to round it to the nearest cent. So if it's asking for the new price or the original price, then we want to look at our percent increase formula or percent decrease formula. In this case, since it went down, we're going to use our percent decrease formula. And if you'll remember, our percent decrease formula was A times 1 minus R equals B. So right from here, we have to figure out, okay, what do these different letters mean? Remember that, let's see if I can do this in green. A is the original, R is the percent as a decimal, and B is the new price. So in this one, it makes things really easy because it gives us the new or the original price that we can plug in for A. I'm going to plug 90 in for A. And then I've got 1 minus my rate is 13. And then 13 as a decimal is 0.13. So 1 minus 0.13 equals B because we don't know B yet. And then we got to think, okay, what does order of operations tell us to do? It's going to tell us to do what's inside the parentheses first. 90 times 1 minus 0.13 is 0.87 equals B. 90 times 0.87, we're going to use a calculator for that. And it's going to give us 78.3 equals B. And remember, we're rounding this to the nearest cent if necessary. 78.3 as dollars and cents, that would be $78.30 would be your final answer. So in this one, it wanted to know the new price. So we're going to use our percent change formula, the percent increase or decrease one. In this case, since it went down, we used a decrease. The original times 1 minus the rate gave us that new price. Okay, next example here. The stock of company A gained 4.25% today to $16.68. What was the opening price in the beginning of today? First thing, figure out what we're looking for. We're looking for the opening price. So that means we're looking for that original amount. So we're looking for A. We need to solve for A. Now, when we're looking for the opening price, that means we're using either percent increase or percent decrease. Since it gained 4.25%, a gain means that it's increasing. So we're going to use that A times 1 plus R equals B. And we're going to plug in for R and B because we don't know what A is. So I'm going to leave A the same. 1 plus my rate as a decimal is 0.0425. 0.0425 equals, and our new amount is 1668. Then I just need to solve for A. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add these together. A times 1.0425 equals 1668. Now, once you've practiced this a while, you'll be able to skip this step and just go right from here to here where you combine 1 and that rate as a decimal. Once you practice it enough, you'll get good at it where you'll get there. So if you don't do this step on your work, that's fine. But just in case, just so you figure out where that comes from, it's because it's 100% plus the rate as a decimal. Then from here, all I have to do, I should have my T-chart in, divide by 1.0425, because remember when there's a variable in front of the parentheses, there's that invisible multiplication. So I'm going to divide this by 1.0425. And A is going to be, using my calculator, 16.68 divided by 1.0425 is going to give me 16, which means that my original price is $16. So those are kind of the three basic situations here that we've got. We've got finding the percent change, finding the new amount, and then in this one we found the original amount by using the other information in the problem. All right. Now the last thing I'm going to go through is the challenge problem section, so that way you can kind of understand how to do that. I'm not going to go through the simplified way of doing it. I'm going to do it using our knowledge here. If you know of a simpler way of doing that, that's great, but I'm going to do it using what our knowledge is now. Okay, so this is the challenge problem here that you only have to get one of these correct to get that 100%. In the year 2006, a company made $7.1 million. For each consecutive year after that, their profit increased by 5%. How much would the profit be in 2008 to the nearest tenth of a million? So this is just what we've been doing. It's just multi-step. You have to do that a formula more than one time. So in 2006, we were at $7.1 million. And I'm just going to write 7.1 for right now. So what we have to do is we have to figure out what is it going to be in 2007, and then what is it going to be in 2008 as our final answer. Now, when you're doing a problem like this, I would suggest rounding and waiting till round until the very end of the problem. That way it doesn't mark it wrong for rounding errors. So if we're starting with 7.1, that's our original amount, and we're going to use the percent increase. So I've got 7.1 times 1 plus 5% is 0.05 equals, and that's going to give us what we have in 2007. So if I do 7.1 times 1.05, I get 7.455. And even though it says round to the nearest tenth of a million, we have to do that at the very end of the problem, not here. We're going to keep that 7.455. So that's what it is in 2007. And then we have to do the same thing again. But now instead of 7.1, we're going to use that 7.455. So I've got 7.455 times 1. I'm going to simplify this to just 1.05. And that's going to give me my amount in 2008. 7.455 times 1.05 gives me 7.82775. And then remember, we're rounding it to the nearest tenth of a million. So the tenth of a million would be right here. So our final answer would be $7.8 million. So if you think you know a simpler way of doing this, really what we did is we just multiplied by 1.05 twice. Think about what repeated multiplication would be, and that might help you find a simpler way. But otherwise, this is just another way of doing it. It's just using our formula, just using it more than once and tracking the results until you get your final answer. So hopefully that helps you with the Delta Math. If you're done with it, great. If not, make sure you finish it up for homework. Oh, and go Bears.